Hey everyone and welcome. Today we're going to clear up some confusion around two words we hear all the time when we talk about memory: amnesia and dementia. Now they both involve losing memories, but as you're about to see, they are really different. So let's dive right in.
I mean, who hasn't, right? We've all been there. You get that little jolt of panic, like, where on earth did I leave my keys? Or that super awkward moment when you're staring at someone you know and their name just vanishes. It's totally normal. And that's actually our jumping off point for today, figuring out the difference between those everyday hiccups and something more.
All right, so here's our game plan for this explainer. First, we'll figure out what's just a normal part of getting older. Then, we'll look at amnesia. Think of it like a specific glitch in your brain's memory system. After that, we'll tackle dementia, which is best understood as a big umbrella term, and we'll see what fits under it. And finally, we'll wrap up with something that's just so important: the human side of it all: care, dignity, and hope.
Okay, so let's get right into it. That first big question that I'm sure is on a lot of our minds: how can you tell if what you're experiencing is just normal aging, or if it might be a sign of something else?
This right here really gets to the core of it. On the left, you've got your typical age-related stuff. You know, you misplace your reading glasses, but you find them later. You forget a name, but then it pops into your head while you're in the shower. It's annoying, but it doesn't really mess up your day. But on the right, the signs pointing to dementia are on a whole different level. We're talking about getting lost in your own neighborhood or suddenly not being able to manage your own finances. See, the key thing to remember is the impact it has on your day-to-day life.
Okay, with that in mind, let's switch gears and look at our first key term: amnesia. Instead of a slow fade, think of amnesia more like a sudden glitch in the system, a very specific problem.
So what is amnesia? Well, it's a super specific problem with just your memory, either retrieving old ones or making new ones. But here's the kicker: everything else, your ability to think, your language skills, your personality, that's usually all still intact. And that is a massive difference compared to what we're going to talk about with dementia. It's a targeted issue, and it's often temporary.
And amnesia isn't just one thing. It comes in two main flavors, which this slide breaks down perfectly. You've got retrograde, which is probably what you think of from the movies, right? Forgetting things that happened before the event. And then there's anterograde. This is where you can't form new memories. You might remember your childhood just fine, but you have no idea what you ate for breakfast this morning. And that piece right there, that inability to make new memories, that's a huge clue, because it's a major feature we also see in dementia.
So what causes this memory glitch? Well, as you can see, it's almost always kicked off by a specific event: a bad knock to the head, a stroke, even extreme emotional trauma. And that last one, thiamine deficiency. I mean, that just goes to show you how critical simple nutrients like vitamin B1 are for your brain to work properly.
All right, so we've got amnesia down. Now let's pivot to the other big term for today. If amnesia is that specific, targeted glitch, dementia is, well, it's much bigger. The absolute best way to picture it is to think of it like a giant umbrella.
First thing to know, dementia is not a specific disease. It's a broad term for a whole group of symptoms. And unlike amnesia, it's not just about memory. It affects your ability to think, to reason, your language, your judgment, and the two words you really need to remember here are progressive and irreversible. That means it gets worse over time, and right now, we don't have a cure.
Okay, if you remember one slide, make it this one. This chart just lays it all out, crystal clear. Look at the scope. Amnesia, it's all about memory. Dementia, it hits everything: memory, thinking, language, you name it. Then progression. Amnesia is usually temporary. It doesn't get worse. Dementia, it's progressive. It worsens. And the big one, reversibility. Amnesia can sometimes get better. Dementia is irreversible. This is the whole shebang right here.
So, we've talked about this big umbrella. Let's peek underneath and see what specific diseases are actually causing these symptoms, shall we?
Wow. So as you can see, one name just dominates this chart: Alzheimer's disease. It's responsible for a whopping 75%, 3/4 of all dementia cases. Then you've got others like vascular dementia and Lewy body dementia making up most of the rest. So let's be super clear here. Alzheimer's and dementia are not the same thing. Alzheimer's is the most common cause of dementia. It's a very specific disease where these nasty little proteins, they're called plaques and tangles, start building up in the brain. And over time, this gunk literally damages and kills brain cells, which leads to that steady decline.
Okay, we've gone through a lot of the clinical stuff, but now I want to shift gears and talk about what's maybe the most important part of this whole conversation: the human side of things, how we approach care,
dignity, and hope.
I love this quote. It hits the nail on the head. It's reminding us that it's not just what you do for someone, but how you do it that matters most. It's all about making sure that a person living with dementia still feels like a valued, respected individual.
And these principles here, there's such a great roadmap for how to do that. We have to remember the person is still in there, the same person they've always been. We need to act in solidarity as a community. And this is huge. You have to support the caregivers too. They're on the front lines. You have to treat the families like partners in this whole journey. And this is what it's all about. It's about that human connection, right? It's about compassion in finding shared moments. The Nuffield Council on Bioethics puts it so well. With the right kind of person-centered support, people can absolutely live a good quality of life, even with dementia.
And I want to leave you with some real hope on the horizon. You know, the research is moving so fast right now. Scientists are working on amazing things, like a simple blood test that might be able to predict Alzheimer's years before any symptoms show up. I mean, can you imagine? That would be a total game changer for treatment and care.
So, really, that brings us to the final, most crucial point. Knowing all of this, what's our role? How can each of us help build a society that's more supportive, more understanding, and just kinder for people living with dementia and for their families? That, to me, is the real challenge and the most important takeaway from all of this. Thanks so much for joining me.